All Cooper CPAs, located in the heart of East Nashville, offer a wide variety of tax services for individuals and businesses. Contact them at 615-257-0646 and visit their website, allcooper.com, for a full list of services.
Today's show is brought to you by locally owned and operated Highland Rim Speedway. Highland Rim Speedway is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year with great short-track, door-to-door stock car racing in a safe, family-friendly atmosphere. Visit their website at highlandrim.com.
Coming up next on Political Soup, Crom Carmichael fills us in on the sequester. And my favorite line so far today, you can't fix stupid. Stand by. We'll give you all the details next on Political Soup.
Jeff Meeks and Chris Austin invite you to watch your favorite sports event at the Batter's Box at 43 Hermitage Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. The Batter's Box offers shuttle service to all Titans home games. It's a great place for friends to gather for the game and after the game. So check out the Batter's Box Bar and Grill, and thanks again for sponsoring the show. Bandwidth for today's show is brought to you by SoftLayer.com. We love SoftLayer here at Talkapolis. They are the greatest hosting company ever. They make everything easy. Check out their website at SoftLayer.com. Thanks again for sponsoring the show.
Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome into Political Soup. I'm Joe Williams, along with Crom Carmichael, and it has been a little while since we've been together. I know you have been loading up on your facts.
Oh, you know, you can only cover so many stories here on Political Soup,
right.
And so you get 12 of them, and you have to figure out which 4 you want to talk about
exactly.
today.
You know, we told them in the tease that we were going to talk about the sequester, and we will, but I got to know. I got to know. I got the email that said, we really need to talk about you can't fix stupid. I tend to agree with you, but I don't know if we're agreeing on the same stupid or not.
Well, there have been 2 people who've now been confirmed
right
to President Obama's cabinet. One is Chuck Hagel, Republican senator, former Republican senator from Nebraska, and he's now Secretary of Defense. And I will tell you that over the years, I've seen him on Sunday morning programs, Meet the Press, Face the Nation, all these different programs. And every time I see him, he kind of has this look, and he just looks dense. And then just dense. And the things he says are frankly not intelligent. And so now when he's in front of the Senate for his confirmation hearings, he makes mistake after mistake after mistake. He even says that the Secretary of Defense is not in a policy-making role.
Well, maybe the truth changed.
Well, and then he said that he agrees with President Obama's containment strategy when it comes to Iran's nuclear weapons. Well, first of all, there is no containment strategy. And he even got a note. Somebody ran over and handed him a note, and he says, "Oh, I misspoke. I don't agree with the containment strategy." And then the
truth changed.
No, and then the senator, what's his name from Michigan, Senator Levin said, "Let me be clear for you, President Obama's strategy, not strategy, but policy
right.
in regard to Iran is they will not have a nuclear weapon." He said, "Yes, that's what I said."
Wow.
And I'm just saying, so now he's our Secretary of Defense, and we're going to pay a price for that.
You
and
know,
the other one.
Can you imagine if Alexander Haig had been like that with his penchant for I'm in charge here?
Oh, my goodness.
Would that not be scary?
Yeah. And then the other one is Jack Lew.
Now Jack, Treasury guy.
New Treasury Secretary. Okay. He just was confirmed. And in his hearing, now Jack Lew is probably a pretty bright guy, so I'm not gonna suggest that he is dense or stupid. Probably a pretty bright guy, but in his hearings he couldn't remember anything. And they asked him when he was an administrator at NYU, New York University, and as part of his perks, they provided him with a $1.4 million mortgage for his home. Okay. He couldn't remember any of the details. Couldn't remember any of them. Couldn't remember the interest rate. Couldn't remember whether they paid it off for him. Couldn't remember anything. It was just amazing. Then, when he was at NYU as an administrator, Citibank was providing student loans
right.
for students who were going to NYU,
Yeah.
and Citibank was paying NYU a kickback for pushing the loans to Citibank. Jack Lew was in charge of that area of the administration for NYU. Ooh. He couldn't remember any details about that. Then he leaves NYU and goes to Citibank as an employee, gets a multi-million-dollar salary. That, by the way, when he was at NYU, he was paid more money than the president of NYU. As an administrator, he was being paid more. Then he moves to Citibank, and he got a severance package even though he resigned. Now, how many people do you know get a severance package when they resign?
Not many.
No, and so then he moves on to Citibank, and he's working all kinds of deals there. And then what he left in his wake, you know how the president rails against high tuition and everything else? During the short period of time that he was at NYU as an administrator, the tuition at NYU went up 40%.
Well,
40%.
Questions.
Oh, yes.
Two questions
Yes.
for you. One, I want to go back. The truth may have changed. How many people get a severance package when they resign? People you want out the door and you'll let them say they resign just to get them gone.
Well,
which I've seen in a couple of cases. Secondly, you know, to be a federal employee, you got to pass a drug screen. These guys are now federal employees. Are they going to have to pass a drug screen?
well, I don't know, but
I say that a bit facetiously, but maybe not.
well, then while he was at Citibank, he invested money, his personal money, Citibank money, and NYU money in the Cayman Islands. Now, this is the same place that Obama said that Romney invested his money and therefore was a crook. Just because he invested his money in the Cayman Islands, Jack Lew invested his own money there. Jack Lew invested Citibank money there, which, by the way, had to be bailed out by the taxpayers.
As I recall, yes.
Yeah, and so he made millions of dollars at Citibank and can't remember anything about his decisions regarding his personal investments or investing Citibank or NYU's money in the Cayman Islands. So it's just funny that this guy who has no memory is now our Treasury Secretary. So there you go.
As he said, you just can't fix stupid. You make up your own mind if this falls in that category or not, because I certainly have. That is, oh yes, I have. We're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about the sequester. The clock is ticking, and not a whole lot is happening. Stay with us on Political Soup.
Allen Cooper CPAs, located in the heart of East Nashville, offer a wide variety of tax services for individuals and businesses. Contact them at 615-257-0646 and visit their website, allcooper.com, for a full list of services.
And welcome back, everybody, to Political Soup. He's Crom Carmichael. He has the facts. I'm Joe Williams. I'm just an everyday kind of guy. Crom, as an everyday kind of guy, I have heard about sequester, and it's coming and it's coming. And lo and behold, as we tape this, it's knocking on the door.
Yeah, it's tomorrow, and you know this is where you have to look at the media and how they're treating this, and this also you'd have to get into using you can't fix stupid, because if you look at history, and then you look at what is being done here, can it create some pain? Yes, but it will be purposeful. Would it be pain that's caused because of the sequester? No. Let me give you an example. When Governor McWhorter tried to pass a state income tax, in January of whatever year it was he tried to do it, he said that if we don't pass the state income tax, our state is in such dire circumstances, the school buses will stop running April 1st. Now, I don't know if there was any irony in him picking April Fool's Day to be the day of Armageddon, but there was no state income tax, and April 1st, the school buses stopped. A few days later, somebody was run over in a school parking lot and was killed. That was very unfortunate. The next day, the school buses started again. They've been running ever since, and we don't have a state income tax. And so if a and Don Sundquist, so McWhorter was a Democrat, Sundquist essentially tried the same kind of tactic, trying to create all kinds of hubbub because we didn't have an income tax. And so you have, it's politicians, regardless of party, that if they try to do something, unlike a business, which if they have to cut spending, they try to figure out what the customer cares about the least and then cut spending in that area. Government tries to figure out what the constituents care about the most and then cut them in that area. So let's begin with that. Now, when the departments that are being cut at the domestic level, I'm not talking about defense, at the domestic level, are being cut 5%. They've grown 17% since Obama became president. And so to say, oh, I can't cut any spending here without it causing all this devastation. Well, what was it like before the spending happened in the first place? It wasn't devastation. After World War II, federal spending was cut 42%. After World War II.
Yeah, the war was over.
And the economy exploded. Did great. And so the way the media is treating this is very, very disappointing, but absolutely not surprising because there's so much in the tank for those who support bigger and bigger and bigger government.
As a private citizen looking at this is my biggest beef with this deal is my wife and my youngest daughter and I were in D.C. July, year before last, when catastrophe was coming and we were going to shut the government down and the whole world, we're going to go bankrupt, we're not going to pay our bills. And at the last minute, we got a deal. Oh boy, we're okay. And now we have 18 months to fix this. Well, boys and girls, here's the deal. You've had 18 more months. You had months before that. At what point do you get off your butt and you go to work? You know, my other problem with this is you got a deal. One, Congress, get off your butt. Mr. President, you had a deal, but now you want to change the deal. Why didn't you say so 18 months ago? You made a deal. You guys made a deal.
Well, they made a deal. This was Obama's idea. Obama came up with the idea of the sequester. He wanted to get the debt limit raised past the election so he wouldn't have to deal with it again.
Right.
He wouldn't cut spending, so he said, let's have this sequester idea. The Republicans, Joe, twice have passed a bill to replace the sequester. They did that last fall. Twice. The Senate did not take up the bill, and the president put no pressure on his party in the Senate to take it up. And so when you say Congress, we need to be more specific here.
Fair enough.
It is the Democrats who refuse. Number one, they have not passed a budget in the Senate in 4 years. The Republicans, since they've been in power, have passed budgets each year. The Democrats have, in the Senate, when Obama submits a budget, they are required to vote on his budget. Last year, it was voted down unanimously. In the Senate, every Democrat even voted against Obama's budget last spring. So, where we are now is we're going to have the sequester take place. My guess is Obama is going to try to figure out how to create as much pain as possible. Give you a couple of examples of the way money is spent in this country. The Pentagon currently buys biofuels at $27 a gallon. That probably will continue.
What?
They won't change that. Number two, the president will continue to allow $2.7 billion of fraud and mismanagement that's been identified in the food stamp program that he refuses to do nothing about. So that's $2.7 billion. And then instead of protecting Medicare from a 2% cut, the president will ignore $62 billion in annual waste that the administration has identified in Medicare and Medicaid. Now, this is from an article written by Phil Gramm, who, by the way, did you know that there was a sequester in 1986? Do you remember all the pain? I don't. But there was a sequester in 1986 that was caused by Graham Rudman. And so my point is...
That's right.
Yes. So my point is the media is just absolutely terrible. They know that these facts exist and they won't report them. And that's really sad.
Well, I want to make sure your fact. You've always been good. Go back to your first fact.
Yeah, right here. Phil Gramm. Phil Gramm
They're buying biofuel?
Yeah. They're
buying $27 a gallon?
Right. Right. Now, by the way, Obama says that he may have to shut down or curtail visitation to the national parks. There are 75,000, wait a second. Yeah, there are 75,000 Department of Interior employees in Washington, D.C. Now, he wants to cut the park rangers in the Interior Department and the people who run the parks, but he's got 75,000 employees that he could either cut or furlough some of them or cut back on their hours in Washington. Let's see if he does that. But if the media had done their job, Obama would be pressured to make the appropriate cuts rather than the ones that are going to harm people the most.
Well, you know, I have seen a recent survey that pretty well places most, the president's getting some heat, but most of the heat for this at the feet of the Republicans.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. And I'm just giving, once again, knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Look at the facts. After World War II, government spending cut 42%. And now we're talking 5% domestically. The same programs that are being cut 5% have grown 17% in just the last 4 years. So there's plenty of waste, fraud, and abuse to cut if the president wants to cut it. He doesn't want to.
Now, when you go to percentages, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That's one of the things that used to drive me nuts when I was working for a local government. When the discussion would come in, well, you're cutting my budget by 10%. No, what happened was you got $100 last year. You've asked for $120 this year, and we're telling you you can have $108. You're still up 8%.
Exactly.
But the argument is you're cutting me 12. What is, 10? What is it?
And we are going to be spending more money at the federal level this year than we did last year, even after the sequester.
Will we not also be raising or more revenue? Will this not be a big year for revenue too, though?
Well, we don't know because I maintain that if you raise tax rates high enough, you actually decrease the amount of work and investment, and therefore you end up increasing unemployment. If you increase unemployment, then there are fewer people working, therefore fewer people paying taxes.
Here comes the spiral.
Yeah, and a lot of the wealthier people adjust their behavior so as not to report as much income or create as much income. Remember, in Great Britain, just 2 years ago, they raised the tax rate from 40% to 50%. At 40%, there were 16,000 people who reported income of over £1 million, and the very next year, at 50%, there were only 6,000 people. And so rather than collecting 25% more, they collected 50% less. So time will tell on the revenue.
Saw the same thing years ago in New Jersey when they put an extra tax on heavy-duty trucks. You remember that?
Oh, you bet.
And instead of buying them in New Jersey, they just went across and bought Mack straight from Mack and Allentown and didn't have to pay the extra tax.
And then the truck dealers in New Jersey went out of business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because there were no sales.
You can't fix stupid, Joe.
Gracious. When we come into these things, I always swear he's not going to get me wound up. He's not going to. You've succeeded.
Oh, good for me.
Good for you. All right, I'm going to try to unwind here for a second or two before we come back with our final segment. Stay with us here on Political Soup.
Jeff Meeks and Chris Austin invite you to watch your favorite sports event at the Batter's Box at 43 Hermitage Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. The Batter's Box offers shuttle service to all Titans home games. It's a great place for friends to gather for the game and after the game. So check out the Batter's Box Bar and Grill, and thanks again for sponsoring the show.
And welcome back, everybody, to Political Soup. I've got to ask this question.
Okay.
Go back to our last segment before we get to our final segment. But I got to ask this question. Under the sequester,
yes,
which is automatic, cuts are going to happen.
Yes.
Does that mean there will be cuts to the president's travel budget and his family's travel budget?
Unlikely.
Okay.
We'll see. Depends on how long it lasts.
Because personally, when my budget gets cut at home,
that's right.
Travel's one of the first things.
One of the first things.
Of course, the last I heard, do business, you need to be in the office. But I'm being ugly today, and I don't mean to be ugly. Part of my being ugly, Mr. Carmichael, is the economy. I'm not sure if it's in good shape or bad shape. The stock market is hitting record highs.
Yes.
But will it last?
Well, the stock market, assets are going up in value because of all of the expansion of the money supply and the deficits. These QE1, QE2, now QE3. Bernanke is not putting a limit on. He just says it'll go until I decide to stop. So there won't be a QE4 because QE3 will not end until he wants it to. But having said that, let me just read a quote. This is from the president, and he says, it is our unfinished task to make sure that this government works on behalf of the many and not just the few, that it encourages free enterprise, rewards individual initiative, and opens doors of opportunity to every child. Now, that's one of his quotes. Okay, and everybody says,
that's good.
That's great. We all agree with that. Now, do you think that if a business that deals with cash or deals with things that are valuable, do you think that those businesses should be faulted by the federal government for doing a criminal background check on prospective employees? Do you think that a company that has contracts with state and local governments where they require a vendor to the state or local government
Right.
to run background checks for certain jobs, do you think they should be attacked by the federal government?
No.
Would that be in keeping with trying to support free enterprise and opportunity?
No.
Well, it turns out that the EEOC is attacking businesses, local governments who perform background checks that are criminal background checks, just to check to see if you have a criminal record, because they're saying that that is a disparate impact because there are more minorities who have a criminal record as a percentage of the population than white people. Now, that's true, but it could also be that minorities have a greater a higher rate of criminal record because they commit more crimes. It could be that they get such a lousy education in our school systems that they're driven to crime. It could be that because so many of them are raised in households with no male around and only a single mother who is paid by the federal government to not work and not get a job, it could be that these are things that drive that. But no, the president doesn't try to address any of those, what I'm calling underlying issues, and tries to say, ooh, you've got a scab on your face. Now, what you may have is cancer underneath it, and he says, let's paint that. Let's put something over it.
A little makeup.
Yeah, a little makeup on it so that people can't see it. And so he's doing that. Then you've got the Obamacare rules and regulations just keep coming out. Now over 20,000 pages. The bill was about 2,200 pages. Now over 20,000, and they're not even close to being stopped. And then he proposes the minimum wage, which we'll talk about in another program. But what it's doing, what that would do to minority kids, both black and Hispanics, and what it has done historically. So when I look at what Obama says and what Obama does, what he does is frankly more impactful than what he says, but they're never the same.
Well, here, I got to tell you, my take on the EEOC thing is, you may have the numbers, and that may be good. I'm just not a real big believer that, a criminal's a criminal, whether they're black, they're white, they're purple, Hispanic, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I have been in businesses where you did those background checks because you may be employing someone who is going onto a customer's private property, potentially in their home, right next to their home, in their garage, etc., around young children who may be out playing. The last thing in the world you want to do is give somebody a job that may tempt them to do something stupid again, because you can't fix stupid.
That's exactly right.
As we said when we started this. Yeah. I guess that's my biggest problem with that. What happens to the employers if they do the checks?
Well, they can be prosecuted. They can be sued by the federal government. The EEOC will come in and sue them, and then they're tied up in court and spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Wait a minute. The employer then is caught between a rock and a hard place, partner, because if they do the background check and they still hire them, they're going to get sued because they're stupid. If they say, all right, I'm going to avoid this, I'm not going to do a background check. It turns out something the employee gets stupid, got a background record. Now the employer is on the hook for negligent hiring.
Right.
He can't win.
Right. Exactly right. And then they get sued by whoever it is that's been hurt by the employee.
Yeah.
Now, let me just give you kind of a brief history of this thing. In 1989, that was kind of the first time that the EEOC, they sued a trucking company that performed a background check. They were hiring a truck driver, and it turned out the man was Hispanic, had multiple arrests, and served 18 months in prison for larceny. The EEOC argued that the only legitimate qualification for the job was the ability to operate a tractor-trailer. Well, if you're carrying around a load of $1 million or $2 million
TVs,
or golf balls. Golf balls are incredibly expensive. How about OxyContin? Just because you're carrying around a valuable load and you know it, and you're a criminal, now that's a problem. Now, more recently though, in 2009, here's what they're saying. Though blacks make up only 13% of the U.S. population, more blacks were arrested nationwide for robbery, murder, and manslaughter in 2009 than whites, according to the FBI. So now, the imprisonment rate of black men was nearly 7 times higher than white men and almost 3 times higher than Hispanic men. So therefore, because blacks and Hispanics are arrested more frequently than whites, you can't do a criminal background check. Now, by the way, The criminal background check doesn't check the arrest record. It's the conviction
record. Yeah.
It's the actual criminal record. And so once again, what I'm saying is the president on one hand says we need to do things to help free enterprise, to help business so that they'll hire more people. Then they turn around and say, and if you run a background check, then we're going to criminalize, or not criminalize it, we're going to sue you, and the EEOC will bring a lawsuit.
Well, for the EEOC to make this purely a black, Hispanic, white issue, no, it's a criminal issue. It's a criminal issue.
It should be. Now, but let me say this. If Obama is so concerned about blacks and Hispanics and their job prospects, then he needs to focus on the underlying issues. And that's what I'm talking about when I said the speck on somebody's face. If it's cancer, it's what's underneath that they need to work on. And he just is absolutely AOL. He's just absent without leave on that.
Well, in fairness to the president, let me ask you this. How much of this is his agenda being pushed, and how much of this is the agenda of the people that he's been talked into putting in positions to push an agenda?
Well, I think they're one and the same. I mean, when you pick
granted, he's eventually responsible.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the key.
I mean, he's the coach. He's the last word.
As Truman said, the buck stops here.
Exactly.
And so if Obama picks people and puts them in cabinet positions and puts them in regulatory agencies that then do this kind of stuff that really hurts the economy, hurts business, and scares people, and that's really what he's in the business of. If you look at it, everything he does is one kind of fear tactic or another. That simply isn't good for the economy, and it doesn't create an environment where businesses want to grow and hire people. In Obamacare, for example, if somebody works more than 29 hours, they're a full-time employee. So you want as many of your employees to work 29 hours, not 30 hours.
28, yeah.
Okay? 49, that's the other magic number. As soon as you have 50 full-time employees, then you have all kinds of rules and regulations from Obamacare that apply to your business. But if you have 49 employees, a whole bunch of them do not apply. So how many companies do you think will get up to 49 and say, that's about all the employees I want, is 49? Is that going to cause more people to be hired or fewer people to be hired? This is not a hard question.
Help me here, though.
Yeah.
Just some numbers.
Okay.
The House of Representatives employ 435 people. The Senate employs 100 people. The president, his staff, I'm sure, is well over 50. So they're all going to be on Obamacare.
Well, no, they cut themselves out.
Oh.
The Congress, in passing the law, said it doesn't apply to Congress, their staff, and I don't know about the administration, but I doubt if it applies to federal employees.
So all Americans are equal, but some are more equal than others.
You got it.
I'm being ugly today.
You are. But the facts hurt. The facts hurt.
Well, yeah. I'd like to tell you I got a little balance for you. Normally we have someone here to balance this, but I can't see how we balance.
We will watch what happens. We'll watch what happens over. By the way, if the sequester happens and there are actual spending cuts that are negotiated, that's actually quite good for the economy. It's not huge, but on balance, it's good. If the sequester, on the other hand, if the Republicans cave, which I don't think they will, I think Republicans are saying we'll agree to cut, agree to give you flexibility because this is not that much money, then that's good. But these other things that are being done are truly harmful to the economy, truly harmful, and we'll just see what happens over the next few months.
Will it take that long?
Well, I'm not talking about just the sequester. I'm talking about the economy in general.
Okay,
right
as a whole.
Right now, on balance, we're marginally moving ahead.
Yeah.
But it's just marginal. And if you see what's happening over in Europe, they're now turning down even at a steeper rate than they were last year.
Wow. And that's scary.
It sure is.
That's scary.
And then you have to look at what are the policies that were happening in Europe that caused that. And we're frankly doing many of the same things here. We're scaring employers. We're raising taxes. We're running deficits. That's what Europe did. It's just, and there's cause and effect. And so we'll just see. We'll just see.
Wow. It could be a long few months. That'll wrap it up today for this edition of Political Soup. Thank you so much for being with us. For Crom Carmichael, I'm Joe Williams, who will be much more quiet next time here on Political Soup. See you then.